Now we are going to write the ciliary ganglion. Ciliary ganglion, you have to write the parasympathetic and sympathetic and sensory. First we will write the parasympathetic, then we will write the sympathetic and sensory here. Parasympathetic you should start from on nerve. The parasympathetic we should start from first we should start from the nucleus. So what is the nucleus? Related to the light reflex and the ciliary ganglion parasympathetic root is. So always keep it in mind, there is some nucleus called as pretectal nucleus. So we'll start from that pretectal nucleus. That will be communicated with the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. This Edinger-Westphal nucleus only we have to start writing. So Edinger-Westphal nucleus is the nucleus of oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve. So Edinger-Westphal nucleus, it has to contact one person which is going near the ciliary ganglion. So via the nerve to inferior oblique. Nerve to inferior oblique is a branch from the oculomotor nerve. So it should catch the nerve to inferior oblique. Nerve to inferior oblique reaches the ciliary ganglion. So very simple route, ciliary ganglion. It gets relayed in that. Then ciliary ganglion, everybody knows you have the fibers coming out from the ciliary ganglion is called as short ciliary nerves. Short ciliary nerves. So through the short ciliary nerves, it supplies the sphincter pupillae. Sphincter pupillae, otherwise called as constrictor pupillae, and then ciliaris. What is the action of sphincter pupillae? It constricts the pupil, and ciliaris action is it just dilates the lens. Okay, it acts on the lens. Next is the sympathetic. This is about the parasympathetic pathway. Now you are going to the sympathetic pathway. Sympathetic pathway, as usual, you have to start from the superior cervical ganglion. Superior cervical ganglion, already I said this is sympathetic ganglion. You have the sympathetic chain, right? You have the superior cervical ganglion, middle cervical ganglion, and the inferior cervical ganglion. From the superior cervical ganglion only sympathetic plexus comes, and it is surrounding the which artery? Internal carotid artery. From that the nerve is coming out. The nerve is entering into the inner fissure. Which fissure? Superior orbital fissure. It enters into the superior orbital fissure. From there it is coming out and it supplies. It should take. So your ciliary ganglion is waiting here. So it should go to the ciliary ganglion. From the ciliary ganglion via the short ciliary nerve, either it should go or some other route also it will take. Otherwise it will go to the long ciliary nerve. Long ciliary nerve is a branch from the nasociliary. Long ciliary is a branch from nasociliary. Otherwise it will go to the long ciliary. This is called long ciliary and this is called short ciliary. Either way it will go, and it supplies the which pupillae? Dilator pupillae, and then again ciliaris. Dilator pupillae and ciliaris. So this is about the sympathetic. So sympathetic superior cervical ganglion, and the same route by either way it can come to the short ciliary or through the long ciliary, it will go and supply the dilated pupillae. And then third is sensory. Sensory is everybody knows, and here most important thing what you write is you should go via the ciliary ganglion, but it is not getting relayed. Only the synapse occurs only in the parasympathetic route, not in the sympathetic route. Neither in the sympathetic route, neither in the sensory route. So sensory fibers are coming from your cornea or your eyes. You have the cornea, you have the sclera, everything. From there the sensation is carried by which nerve? Nasociliary nerve. Nasociliary nerve passes through the ciliary ganglion without relay. Okay, otherwise it will go separately, and it will reach the nasociliary is a branch of ophthalmic. Ophthalmic is a branch of trigeminal. Trigeminal will go to the along the sensory tract, it will reach the thalamus. So this is about the sensory route, right? So this is how the nerves are all going. So this is about the ciliary ganglion, sympathetic, parasympathetic and sensory. So what will happen if the parasympathetic is gone? If the parasympathetic supply is gone, what will happen? Sphincter pupillae will not work. So the pupil will be dilated. That dilated pupillae is called Aedis pupil. Dilated pupil is called Aedis pupil. And then what happens if there is sympathetic supply is gone? The sympathetic fibers supplies not only to the dilated pupillae, it also supplies superior tarsus, inferior tarsus muscle. Superior tarsus is present in the upper eyelid and inferior tarsus is present in the lower eyelid, and then the next one muscle is called as orbitalis. So orbitalis is present in the inferior orbital fissure. Everybody knows the inferior orbital fissure. The inferior orbital fissure is covered or closed by the muscle called orbitalis. So now what happens? The dilator pupillae is out. What will happen? Pupil will be constricted. So the pupil will be constricted. Second, superior tarsus is out. Superior tarsus muscle is one of part of the levator palpebrae superior. So if the superior tarsus is out, what will happen? The eyeball will be that eyelid will be closed partially. That is called partial ptosis. So number 1, meiotic pupil. Number 2, partial ptosis. Number 3, inferior ptosis. If it is gone also, nothing will happen. Orbitalis is the one which closes the inferior orbital fissure. So it forms an important support for the eyeball. So what happens if the support is gone? What will happen to the eyeball? Eyeball is gone inside or sunken inside. What is that called? Enophthalmus. So that is called enophthalmus. So what are the components? For example, my C8T1 nerve is cut. It means that lower part of the sympathetic trunk is out. So from this only the sympathetic fibers are going. So obviously this sympathetic fibers will not be going through that. So sympathetic fibers will not be coming here. So there is no sympathetic supply. So all your muscles will be paralyzed. So all your muscles will be paralyzed. This condition is called as Horner syndrome. Okay, Horner syndrome. So Horner syndrome components, if I ask what are the things, will you write? Number 1, dilator pupillae is out. So you will be having meiosis. Number 2, your superior ptosis out. So partial ptosis. Don't ever say complete ptosis. Partial ptosis. Why you should not say complete ptosis? Complete ptosis occurs in full levator palpebrae superioris is gone. Because you have eyelid, complete muscle is levator palpebrae superioris. Only the middle portion, small portion only you have the superior tarsus. So don't say complete ptosis. It is just partial ptosis. And the third one is enophthalmus. And fourth one is all the fibers which are supplying to the sweat gland also, it is getting compromised because sweat is sympathetic. So anhidrosis. And the last one is loss of ciliospinal reflex. Ciliospinal reflex is just pinch on the neck through that the same sympathetic route only, internal carotid artery, internal carotid plexus, same sympathetic. So it will be lost. So these are the components of Horner syndrome. So you should write for the parasympathetic clinical application is Aedes people you should write. For the sympathetic you should write all the 4 muscles with the Horner syndrome, and the nasociliary if the corneal reflex you can write the corneal reflex. If there is any dust particles enter into the eye, through which pathway it will go to the sensory cortex, nasociliary, ophthalmic, and then trigeminal and the thalamus, like that. This is the route. So this is about the ciliary ganglion.